Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. My co-host Robin and I take absolute delight in week after week featuring amazing women who are making a huge impact in this world. And not only are they making an impact in this world for themselves, they're taking other women along for the journey, and they're transforming the way how we need to support each other and lift each other up. And it is with absolute delight that we bring back an amazing, amazing woman, a personal friend, and a friend of Women Investing in Women. Robin, take it away.
Absolutely. We are so excited to have Shubi with us again. And last time she was here, probably a year ago, talking about her software called Uplevyl. And it's software written by women for women. So how women can advance in the workplace with a women's perspective. And we were so excited about that. And they have now just launched a new social app called UpSocial. They just had a big launch in London a few weeks ago, and I've hopped on it. I think it's really terrific. And I said, oh my gosh, we have to have Shubi back to talk about this new social platform. So take it away, Shubi. Tell us about this new platform, what inspired it, how it works, and just tell us about it.
So you're first and foremost, thank you so much for having me back again. It's always a pleasure to see both of you. And so much has happened, in that from the time I first conceived of Uplevyl, and here we are today. It was a kernel of a thought way back when that I wanted to go away and build gender data set because AI is going to become so prominent in the future. So now we're actually here. The future is happening, and that is how Uplevyl, the hubs were born, so that these hubs could cater to wherever women convene. They convene in the workplace. They convene in women's networks, nonprofits, alumni, right? So how can we be that technology partner to power all these incredible women communities? So that was really Uplevyl. And then the election happened. And on the back of the election was really born Up. And part of that had to do with me sort of thinking about, not to get political one way or the other, but it was just, we women need a place that we feel safe to be able to express our innermost thoughts, our challenges, our issues. And if you really look at the landscape of where technology is today as it relates to big tech, it's the same playbook. They may come in different forms, but it's the same playbook, which is we're and let's follow the money, right? Like following the money, especially for Cass and I, is a very innate thing to do, which is how are companies motivated? So when you look at big tech, their bread and butter comes from advertisers. So you that is your customer, frankly. We're not the customer. Your customer is really the advertisers. In order to get the big advertising contracts, the advertisers want to know, hey, what's your daily active users, your weekly active users, your monthly active users? How much time are people spending in your app? Well, in order to create those sort of metrics, then you have to focus on getting millions and millions and millions of people on the platform. Why? Because you need to be able to drop ads. But you can't have a handful of folks to get any meaningful data insights. So what does that mean? Well, you need to then create content that will be interesting and engaging for these users to come into the platform. Who's going to create all the content? So now the big tech has really rewired our brains for us to sort of create ourselves into users. And oh, by the way, they do call us users because that's what we are. We are exploited and our data is extracted. And we are the product, as many folks say, because when it's free, your data is what you're giving up. Your very valuable data is what you're giving up. So this is what happens with the big tech, is create one set of users who are all about sort of like this hamster on a wheel going, I need followers, I need followers, I need followers. And they're creating all this content and trying to, almost doing user acquisition on behalf of these big tech companies. And then there's others who are just sort of, scrolling, endlessly scrolling through hours and hours and hours and giving up their time and their data. So they've rewired the globe, if you will, in coming up with these two kinds of users. They also now know, and this is what we've also seen recently, what is going on is let's get rid of moderation. Under the guise of the First Amendment, people can say anything and everything, who are we to police, etc. So this respectful boundaries are getting completely blurred. Why? Because we know data shows that misogyny, narcissism, racism, hate speech actually gets a ton of eyeballs, and it creates high levels of engagement. And that is what, again, then drives that whole behavior around the monetization model. And so what does this then mean for women? We just ran a survey with over 1,000 women. It was done independently by a company in Utah. And what that survey showed is 57% of the women do agree and believe, and this is why there's a mass exodus happening from a lot of these traditional social media platforms, either related to misinformation or fake information or harassment. Almost 25% of the women have exited Twitter or X, right? So women are quitting. 1 in 4 women has quit one of the social media platforms. So, and now also 30% of the women, let's say on Twitter, there's only 30% of women of the population on Twitter that are women. Of that, only 30% of the women actually actively post and comment. So essentially 10% of that Twitter population is women. But even of the women that actually do participate are silent. They're just passive users. So essentially, our voices need to be heard. Our voices need to be amplified. Right now, more than ever, we as women need to be making sure that our rights are not regressing. I mean, we already live in a world where 2% of women entrepreneurs get funded, and less than 30% of women are on boards and C-suite and leadership, for example. We know all these stats. Now more than ever, we women need to come together, and this is how the social platform was born, so that this can, most important to us and to the Uplevyl brand, is safety, safety, safety. So how do we create safe spaces for women to talk about women's issues such that they can get the support, they can inspire each other, and most importantly, uplift each other. So that is my very long response to your question, why up?
That is absolutely not just amazing, Shubhi. It is timely, it is important, and only a woman can serve women, right? Because we know what we are going through. And what you said is so true. We are being led like lemons. We are the product. We are not the customer. And what the big tech also does is they only feed a confirmation bias. Because when you feed the confirmation bias, you get people whipped up emotionally. And then emotionally uncontrolled people then say things that can create more buzz. So it's a accelerating addiction.
Yeah.
Truly not meaningful in a sense to help people understand, learn, grow, because normally communication is supposed to be expand our perspective and gain wisdom so that we can engage with each other meaningfully. That whole notion of the purpose of communication is gone.
Yeah.
And it is truly, truly race baiting, gender baiting, generation baiting. It's just uncontrollable. So I'm so happy to see what you're doing. And my question is, how are you making sure that the confirmation bias is not seeping in here? And there's truly a respectful environment of taking perspective, because if we listen to one another, we end up learning more and we become better at how we engage in this world.
You know, actually building safe spaces is an expensive proposition. And it is a lot easier, as a technologist, I will say this, relatively speaking, to build it from day one than build big tech platforms. And then you start to slap on top of it moderation tools and safety tools and encryption tools, because you're having to redo a lot of that code and redo a lot of those processes, right? So there is a reluctance to do that. And also when you become so massive, then when you talk about, oh, we need a human in the loop, well, you now need farms of people out, I don't know, in the Philippines and the Vietnam is what they have been doing, which I don't know if you've seen some of these documentaries on CBS. 60 Minutes had it, in terms of the psychological damage it has created for these poor men and women who have to sit there and watch these horrific videos and content to cleanse it out of these systems, right? And so most recently when they said, well, they're going to just stop doing a lot of those things, is because it is a huge cost, and they have a lot of lawsuits, etc. So what is Uplevyl doing differently? For us from day one, like I said, follow the money. And why do I say that? Because I think as a society, this is why contract law and all these things are really important. If I tell you that this product is free, I think the unspoken contract there is it is not really free. You are going to give me all your data, and I'm going to figure out a way in how I'm going to engage you and have you be on the platform, etc., etc. We have a very different philosophy, which is this is a subscription platform. By subscription, by definition, the contract is, okay, you are going to give me money, but I'm going to give you something in return of value. So what is of value to you? Well, so our definition of value is, first and foremost, it's going to be a safer space. Why? Because we've invested in tools from day one to ensure some community guidelines, screening people that are coming in, making sure there are no bots, putting in all the, we put in the base. Now we're moving towards more advanced AI moderation. All of the conversations and discussions, etc., both at rest and in transit, are fully end-to-end encrypted. We have servers in parts of the world whereby we can keep that data safe and out of the hands of authoritarian regimes, right? So we've taken lots of steps like this from day one. I mean, that is our it's in our DNA as we approach every feature rather that we build on the platform. But it's not, unlike a lot of the other big tech platforms, it's an afterthought. And there's a big difference when it's core to your strategy versus an afterthought to your strategy.
Yeah. This is really, really fascinating to me because part of my life is in the world of fraud prevention. And that's absolutely one of the things that we preach is when you are doing software, building software, security and safety has to be part of the process from the beginning. You have to be thinking about fraud prevention. You have to be thinking about security and safety from the get-go, and
Yeah.
that informs how you go about building your product and what you build. And so it is fascinating to hear you say that in the world that you're dealing with, because it is exactly part of the world that I am in as well. And coming back to the app itself, what are some of the topics like who are some of the types of women hopping onto your platform? And once again, congratulations, you had your big launch in London. You can tell us about that if you want to as well. But who are the types of women hopping on, and what are the types of things that they are asking about, talking about, sharing about?
It's interesting because I just did a slide on this yesterday, and we were just looking at our, initial data of the members that have joined. It is a broad swath of women from various sectors, as you can imagine, everything from, the tech sector to the healthcare sector to journalists. They also come from different parts of the world. Everything we've done to date has just been word of mouth. we have a significant percent of the population are women leaders. And I say leaders from a, not just in corporate leaders, but leaders who are in the government, leaders in academia, pretty seasoned women founders. So and I think my vision has been, and it doesn't mean that you have to be um, formally deemed as a change maker, but I think what I'm beginning to see, these are like early days of as we're analyzing the data, that the women that are joining are truly women who are change makers. And I think that is, it's interesting how the platform is shaping like that, because part of it is you design, you provide, but it will become what it will become just as you observe organically as well, right? What is the market telling you at this time in a moment in life? We've also launched it, when we launched it in January, and now today is April 3rd, so much has changed and so fast, and the velocity of change is crazy. And so I think launching it also in this climate has created very different outcomes than what we even anticipated. The sense of urgency is so strong, where women are looking for a place where they want a voice, but they're afraid in some ways right now, because so much of the big tech is founded by white men, and comments around misogyny and narcissism, etc., from these very established founders has become commonplace. And so as a woman, how do I feel safe on that platform? So will I go in there for entertainment, engage? Sure, yeah. But if I am a change maker and I am really concerned about what do I now do about women's health care, what happens to women's policies, what happens to women in the workforce, how is AI, with 300 million women around the globe are projected to lose their jobs, because a lot of the jobs that women do are really slated for automation. What does the future look like for women in the workplace, right? Where are we supposed to have these conversations? Who's waking up in the morning and thinking, wow, are we ensuring that women feel safe on our platforms to be able to go have these conversations? No, nobody is. So somebody has to do it, right? And so here we are trying to find that place so women can start to tackle these big challenges. I am not capable of tackling those challenges, because there are these women experts. They've spent their lives. This is their life's work. They need to come together and collaborate and really brainstorm on how the future is going to look like for us. But my job with my team is to figure out how we can give you the best technology to create that connective tissue, bring women together, but in a very safer space, I should say. Because it's always going to be bad actor smarter.
The timing couldn't be more serendipitous, unfortunately. And the question that's coming up for me as I am hearing what you're saying and loving everything that I am seeing and hearing, and I know you, so I know the place from your heart, the depth of your soul this is coming from. We're living at an age where when you speak up, it's all documented because technology retains everything. So for example, I say I get engaged in this safe place, right? But what if my phone is taken at the border when I'm traveling? How does that expose me? This is a question we're all wondering, right? And half the time, what is taken as questionable or punishable has nothing to do with anything other than they don't like your face and they are projecting that as an excuse into something else. How does this, outside of the way this technology is managed and delivered, how does the environment pose risks to women?
Yeah. Now we're very clear. I mean, I think if you look at a lot of the women's topics, Well, it's interesting, right? Because even the word women supposedly
Yes.
has been removed, right? Which is breaks my heart. But so then you look at, okay, women and climate, women and healthcare, women. These are really, really important issues. Um, and so we do need a space for women to come together and work in in a place whereby we can protect, right? But I do 100% agree with you that if you have things on your phone that are going to be problematic, then that's going to be problematic, right? And so you have to be really careful and thoughtful. Now, companies like us can limit that information such that, if you're on the phone, we can think about like, oh, what content will really show up, right? So all of the content could be sitting somewhere else. It's only when you log in and you have it, all the right credentials, will you have again access to those feeds. It doesn't have to be designed the way it's designed, right? So we are working towards creating different design features such that for that, do we have it today? No. Are we working towards it? The answer is absolutely yes. But that's going to protect you, let's say, from the up product. It does not necessarily protect you like from others. Like when you think about and not to pick, but as much as WhatsApp says is encrypted, you have to go back. And Jackie had written this. Jackie Zahner had written this on LinkedIn a while ago. It is so important in this day and age to figure out who the founders of these companies are. So people, but what they've done is very systematically separated and created this impression that, oh, and I'm not saying that WhatsApp is not safe, but let's just think about this for a second. Oh, it's really safe, it's really encrypted, etc. But what guarantee do we really, really have it's safe when it is still part of the bigger meta real estate, right? Like it is still part of that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You're saying all of this, ultimately, everything is intertwined. And so we just have to be careful as much as we can. But to your point, if people who are building the platforms make them safe from the get-go, then there's a little bit of help there. With every single interview, we always say, oh my gosh, the time has just flown by. And so tell us, tell us how people can get a hold of you. Tell us how they can find and download this new wonderful social app. And then if you have one last golden nugget that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear that.
So yeah, if you go to the App Store, the Play Store, look for Uplevyl dash up, right? Because the parent company is Uplevyl, and then UpSocial is the new product line. So download that, and it's like downloading any other app, and then often they're having connections and new friends, and would love to hear all your thoughts and posts, because there's some incredible quality of posts that we're beginning to see. As we close out, it's interesting, again, going back to the world we're living in. But one thing is, this is the digital era for sure. And the digital era is going to permeate our lives for better or for worse. It's going to be there. And I want to make sure, regardless of what you do, whether you're doing finance or you're doing nursing or you're doing AI, is going to be a through line for all of us, and we can't fall behind. And I continue to say this, that if we fall behind in the digital age, then us falling behind on the digital, not, I mean, if or said differently, if the digital divide gets any bigger, then the economic divide is going to get even bigger. And I think it's really important that we don't fall behind in the digital age.
I love that message, Shubhi, because the way women have been kept out is keeping busy at home, taking care of society. and making what they did not technically work because they don't get paid for it. So the modern colonial era has already created this divide for more than 400, 500 years. And now we are getting to a digital age where women are truly more educated than the men in the world. We have a responsibility to keep them engaged. And I am so grateful for what you are doing. I am so grateful that I have you in my world as a friend, and I cannot wait to even bring the release of these Women Investing in Women and other episodes into your platform, because we
Oh, please do.
kind of
Please do.
messages. Yes, we need these kind of messages to bring women together. And the only way we're going to shape a safer world is for women to nurture it. Men are too busy figuring out who's bigger, who's stronger. Women are trying to figure out, how do I make this safe for me, my children, my grandchildren? And what fuels us is what's going to shape the world. And I am so, so, so grateful for who you are and what you're doing. And to our audience out there, ladies, we are each made as women for a reason. Women are the ones who are blessed with the power to nurture and give life. And I will even go as far as to say, in the Christian faith, even the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit couldn't bring Jesus into this world without the womb of a woman. That is how powerful the feminine is. So embrace your power, show up in places that are safe for you, and let's please work together to build a world that is safer than the one we found it, so that our daughters and our granddaughters can have a much more meaningful, safe, and secure life ahead of them.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you both. Yeah, I think it's really important that we get a lot of the women change makers come together. Can you imagine the force of bringing millions and millions of women together? How powerful that would be. But, you know, I'm just a simple technologist in Austin, Texas. My job is to help build the technology and let you all big brains go away, do what you need to do in a safer space.